I don't know. I think that plays a lot into the mystique of the Old West as well,
Mhm.
because the Old West was like the last era before industrialization and the seeds of what would be the modern world. So really, that law conquering that chaos in that region, it was the last bit of, I mean, not only was it the last bit of continental wilderness in the United States being colonized, but it was also humanity in that last bit of like wildness before the modern world really set in and took away all the mystery in life. And I feel like that's why it's so romanticized and it's such a vital part of the American character.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Boy, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's exactly, yeah, you even said it a lot better than I would have ever said it. But absolutely, that's you're talking about a big frontier full of unknowns.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you had people traveling for days before they saw a town, kind of thing, or they may see an outpost. You had trailblazers still making trails well into the 1870s. It's just an amazing era where a lot of people talk to me about Red Dead Redemption. I have to tell you, I don't know if you're a gamer or not.
I love that game.
Red Dead Redemption has actually become a resurgence for the Old West, and I am so happy about that. I can't even tell you, because we're in this weird period of people in my generation were the last ones where we could really sit there and watch westerns on Saturday mornings, and you would be absolutely assured there'd be two or three westerns coming out every year in the movie theater.
Oh yeah.
Nowadays, I'm like, when was the last western on was the last one Cowboys and Aliens? I mean, I don't even know. They're just getting further and further apart. So something like Red Dead Redemption has really brought forth a lot of kids to this genre, and
Yeah.
it's that's really amazing. So they're learning about it. And they're like, really? Was it? Did you really have to drive? Did you really have to ride your horse like 2 hours to get to another town? Well, 2 hours, yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Try 2 days.
that's the one thing I love about that game is just how far spread out everything is and how, it really is a journey. I mean, and like, I don't know, the game is set to where I want to say it's like every 3 hours is like the passage of a day, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because the timing's off, but like they tried to keep that game as realistic as possible. And honestly, after I completed the story mode, which is within itself one of the best story arcs in video games. If you actually, get into the online gameplay where you're creating your own character, I mean, it is almost like, you're creating your own reenactment in that sense. And you can, choose to be a lawman, you can choose to be a bandit, you can just go around raiding, other parties. I mean, it really does allow you to have that virtual Old West experience.
Yeah. I love the fact that you have to wait for a train or wait for a stagecoach if you want to rob it. It's not like they come by every 30 seconds or something like that. And you have to sort of plan your day out or clean your guns or whatever the deal is.
Yeah.
Um, you know, eh, there are a lot of tropes that in the game, but for the most part, they did pretty darn well with it. And I mean, I can't be happier with the game. And like you, I played through the whole thing. I really didn't enjoy the main story as much as everything else. I liked the freedom of being on my own and doing my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would always have my little, pup tent out. I would never go
Yeah,
back to camp unless I absolutely had to because I don't know, like the thing that, and I know it's a super nerdy thing to say, but the thing I love the most about that game was the hunting. You could go out and you could actually hunt, skin animals, sell the furs, actually make custom clothing. Like that sort of thing,
yeah,
just kind of really tickled my fancy
yeah,
because, after you complete most of the missions, the game does get repetitive. It's the same type of missions over and over again. But when you can go out and hunt a legendary grizzly bear and then have, a special jacket made with this one guy that you have to travel across the map to get to, I mean, it
right.
gives you that sense of accomplishment.
I remember at one point I was I know it's hard for you to believe since I've been sipping at this, but I was drinking while I was playing the game, and I wanted to get that white alligator. Uh, and I was sitting there shooting this white alligator, thinking to myself, what am I doing? I'm playing a Western game. I'm somewhere in potentially Louisiana shooting a white alligator. I don't know. It just was really funny to me, but you're right. Those legendary animals are pretty amazing. You know,
Well, I
they're
mean, the one thing I love about that game as well, the one thing I love about Westerns as well is that, the cowboy, it is a distinctly American archetype. And there's something that resonates with people who are, from American because it just embodies that American spirit, that individualistic person within us all that just seeks to pave their own trail. And I think that's one of the reasons why we had talked about, this generation. This is their first real, experience with the Western genre for a lot of kids. I remember when I was a kid, the Western was always what was on at my grandpa's house. Like he would sit and watch Rawhide or
yeah.
Bonanza over and over and over again. And I like it has that emotional connection with me. And then as I got older, I really resonated with the spaghetti westerns and the Sergio Leone films. Those movies are timeless. So I have a roommate who's a little bit younger than me, and he had never seen any of these Western movies before. So I've just been forcing him against his will to sit and watch all of them. And we made it
Wow.
through the Dollars trilogy, and now we're going to start getting into the John Ford stuff. And I know that transition of the idealistic Western, and then as time goes on, I think the genre of the Western has defined where American society and culture was. Because if you look at like the John Ford films, those early idealized, heavily romanticized Westerns, you really start to see, they had their prevalence in the 50s and the 60s, right after the war when people had so much faith in their government, so much faith in the system. But, by the time the late 60s and the 70s rolls on, when trust is kind of corroded in the government, you
Hmm.
start seeing the spaghetti westerns and the kind of the deconstructionist or anti-westerns start to come up that really starts to break down the myth and look at the gritty reality of what things would be.
It's a really good point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wow, you really are good with this timeline thing. I think I was a little distressed when you mentioned that you were, basically forcing your roommate to watch it. That hurt me a little bit. But I thought, boy, they're so entertaining. How can you not like them? I mean, the archetype of Clint Eastwood is the guy that, geez, I wanted to be when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to be John Wayne too, but Clint Eastwood shot people in the back because he was smart and didn't take chances. So I got to give him that. It's, geez, don't take a chance on that guy because he'll kill you. So just shoot him. But John Wayne would never do that.
Yeah.
Never shoot a guy in the back. Um, anyway, I digress on that. I've been watching Westerns lately on Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu. I have to tell you, as well as they're produced and as amazing that they are, this reality thing that they're trying to push upon me of this depressing era of sadness and um, just overall misery, it's really depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat through probably 3 or 4 westerns lately that I thought, boy, I just kind of want to go drink and cut my wrists. This is not what I wanted. Um, and it's really disappointing. I kind of wish they would. Did you see it? There was a TV show or TV show. I think it's on Amazon Prime or Netflix called Brothers Sisters.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
Just the story. I mean, even though like towards the end when they start getting when they start dumping the chemicals in the river and like
yeah,
and creating substances that they definitely didn't have at the time as far as like
yeah,
sulfuric acids and the such, but just the character drama that went into that. John C. Riley and Joaquin Phoenix killed it. I
yeah.
I thought it was a very sad movie, but it was I don't
But
know,
it
it was very
wasn't.
well
But it
done.
wasn't that sad, and I think that was the thing. Is I was like, oh, this is. At that point when they were all in the pond or the creek,
Yeah.
and they were all basically rotting apart. I thought, oh man, this can be another one of those movies. And then of course it had pseudo happy ending, which was good. And it for me it felt uplifting, and I thought, good, you didn't go down that route where the ending has to be this just complete drudgery. which has been happening in so many westerns. I just don't want the next generation of people to grow up thinking, "Oh, the West was just such a miserable place." I mean, if it
Yeah.
was such a miserable place, we wouldn't have. I almost said California, um, Hollywood, which is in California. So, I mean, it wasn't that miserable of a place. I know
Yeah.
it's boring, but
Well, I was
that
gonna say, there's when it comes to like the old west and people's perceptions of it. I mean, I think anybody. I think people are so focused on their creature comforts, right? Oh, a time where there wasn't running water or toilet paper. I couldn't do that. Sounds like misery. Like, no, no, those are just things that you didn't have. You could still be happy without things.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's a book that I reference a lot that was written by a saloon keeper out here in Tucson in the 1870s. Um, his name was George Hand, and he had the saloon downtown. And it's by and large, it's kind of boring because he's like, oh, another day, nothing going on, really hot. Saw a dog. The mail stage came in, got drunk, went to sleep. But other times you can see that there's really exciting things for them, things that we take for granted. I always used to laugh at the fact that people would tell me that in this small town in Kentucky, Missouri, wherever, these people in the 20s would go out and set their chairs out by the train station so they could watch the train come by. That was their excitement on a Saturday night. And I thought, whoa, that's silly. But you know what? I mean, things have changed so much. Technology has really changed our lives so drastically. But if we had to go back to that, I tell you what, I'd be really excited to see a train go by.